Today on In Time Country Living, I work on planting a fruit tree using what is known as the Alan White method. So this morning I am out planting a few trees here, or see how many I can get done. Maybe I can get one or two done today. It's quite a process to do the job right. Last year I planted a bunch of little trees that I think were kind of root bound, and I think they may have suffered from that as well, but most of them, the graft part didn't survive, and a couple of the rootstocks didn't survive. So instead of repeating the process, I'm trying to do the job right the first time here, or the second time I guess you would say. So working on getting some large holes dug, and just want to show you a little bit of the process here. It's quite a job here. It depends on your soil type, of course, how much work it is to dig the hole, but that's just part of the process, to get down and get all the clay soil out of there and fill it up with organic matter and good topsoil for the tree to get a good established. And then once it's good and established, it can work its way out. The feeder roots can go near the surface, and some of the deeper roots looking for water and other nutrients, like minerals and things down deeper, it can gather. And when it's big enough, it can push through some of the more clay soil down there. So anyway, that's what I'm working on this morning. So one of the best ways I've found to dig a deep hole that's not very big around, the pick doesn't really work when you get down this deep. Trying to shove the shovel in vertically in this tough stuff is challenging. Not impossible, but you just kind of get a little bit at a time. So best way I found is to try to shave it off. Get down here with two hands and a lot of strength. Just shave off a good shovelful. It's fairly quick, not too difficult. It keeps more of a rhythmic, scoops them up, get it out of the hole. Keep chipping away at it all day long, but you don't get very far. So just kind of work on continually moving stuff out. Seems to work pretty good. Work your day down on one side here, and then let's get cleaned out. If you can get it cleaned out. Step over there and work on the other side for a little bit. Right about here. So that's about 1 foot there. So almost to 2.5 feet. That's probably all the deeper I'll go. It's probably deep enough. 2.5 to 3 feet is sufficient for a tree. So I'm putting all the heavy clay soil into a wheelbarrow and carting it over to a little hole in the ground where I previously wanted to put a tree but never did because it was in the wrong spot. So I've been using that clay soil for cat litter for quite a while. So I just like, well, I'm developing more of it, so let's make use of it, and just once it dries out towards the end of the summer, or even halfway through the summer, gather it up, put it in bags, and then I have something for the rainy periods to hold me over. So anyway, just getting it out of here. Okay, so best thing I found here, something that's expendable, I have quite a few of, is number 10 cans. So that's about a gallon's, well, a little less than a gallon's worth of air in the bottom of the hole. So I'm going to use one of those, turn it upside down here so the dirt won't fall in there and fill it up. Stick it down there in the middle, something like that, about like that. And then I'm going to put a bunch of, about a foot of organic matter in the bottom here, add in the topsoil, and then another more compost soil layer. So let's go do that. So one of the components that I want to mix in with the topsoil that I will be putting into the bottom third and the top third of the hole for the tree is kind of a mulch, organic matter of some type, something that will break down fairly easily. Grass clippings, dry leaves, things like that that have been ground up. This is stuff that's come through my mower from mowing up the dry and green grass and the leaves together. That grinds it up nicely so it breaks down a lot faster. And it isn't real fluffy leaves, which will be kind of a problem in the hole, because it's going to add a lot of air space in there that's just going to sink, and it's going to be hard to compact it enough. So something that's fairly, a little bit of moisture is good, so because that'll help it to stick together and compact a little bit more. So some of the other things you want to consider when amending the soil that you're going to be putting into the hole, which will help the tree to grow vigorously and to grow healthily. So calcium is the first thing you want to think about. A good source of calcium is agricultural lime, and that's a good source of it. You could also use gypsum. So one of the sources that I can get locally is in about a 50-pound bag of agricultural lime, and I use this for all kinds of uses. But for tree planting, this works really well. It's very economical, and calcium is a very important nutrient when for plants and trees. So that will allow you to have high nutrient dense fruit that is produced by this tree, and it'll also give a lot of health and vigor, and also gives it makes the fruit a lot sweeter as well. Another thing to consider is to add some minerals. One of the easiest ways to do that, if you have a wood stove, is wood ash, because after the wood has been burned up, all the fibers have been broken down, and what you're left with is pretty much just minerals and other constituents in there. So that's a good free source if you're already burning your wood of minerals that you can use as an amendment. You could also use seawater or seawater solids, sea salt or something like that, something that has the full range of minerals in there. That could be beneficial too. And one of the nutrients that trees really appreciate is phosphorus. So a good natural source of that is rock phosphate. This is just a standard rock phosphate. So that's what I'll be using in the top half, or the top part of around where the feeder roots will be. You could also put it in the lower amended soil. I don't have very much of this left, and it's kind of expensive or so. So I'm just going to use it in the top portion where the tree can make use of it the most. So the next step is to prepare the soil that I'm going to be putting in the bottom of the hole. And this means just basically mixing in the things that I want in there, the amendments, and the organic matter. So a good use of the sod that was taken off the top layer and all the roots mass is to use that in the bottom of the hole where it isn't going to be resprouting and trying to grow. and also adds a lot of organic matter in there, which I want in the bottom of the hole. So I'm going to use this pile here, which is a lot of the topsoil. Has a little bit of a clay in there, but that's another reason to put it near the bottom, get rid of it. It's not going to be such a problem, but this is full of roots and tops of grass and things like that. So this is a good source of soil to use in the bottom of the hole. I'm going to break this up a little bit here so I can mix it. And these small rocks here will save out for our rock layer. So now I'm going to add in the amendments, just sprinkle them on top here. Some of the wood ash in here. And we'll put in some of the lime. The ash also has, let's see here, it's also a calcium source, potassium source as well. Also known as potash. So now I'm just going to take my pitchfork or shovel or whatever you have to try to mix it up a little bit here. It's going to be a little bit of a challenge with all the root mass in here. So we don't want big, huge pockets of the ash or the lime or things like that in here. We want to distribute them evenly about so the roots aren't burned by them or not able to absorb them, because it's the microbes and the fungus that are in the soil are the ones that make them available to the tree roots. It isn't just absorbed through the cell walls of the roots or anything like that. So you want the well mixed so that the soil bacteria and microbes are the ones that can access them and then provide them to the tree. Every so often you kind of have to clean your shovel off, because otherwise you're just kind of rubbing. It won't go into the soil very well if there's clods of clay on there and things like that. So usually I try to get it cleaned off every so often so I'm not wasting my time trying to get it into where it needs to be. I'm also going to be mixing in some of the leaves, chop, and the grass clippings now too. Don't really want too many sticks in there, stuff that won't break down when it's buried like that. Okay, ready to be putting the soil into the bottom of the hole here around the can that's already there. So now I'm going to start filling the hole and fill in around the can that's already in the hole there. want to make sure it's not going to settle. It's always going to settle a little bit because the decomposition of the organic matter in there is always some airspace. So I'm going to minimize that as much as possible. Okay, so now that we got that layer in, I want to do just a single layer of rocks, and the purpose of this is actually not for drainage or anything like that, or to keep the roots from going down into the soil below it, which we actually do want to do, but it's actually to create kind of a layering effect like a battery, and this affects the electrical conduction in the soil, and it allows there to be kind of a field of electricity, kind of like a big battery. And this will allow the tree to exchange the nutrients with the soil and the microbes around it much more easily, to have this battery effect in here. So that's kind of what we're doing with the rock layer here. So these are some of the rocks here that I was pulling out of the soil as I was bringing it up. So now I'm just going to toss those in there. If you don't have rocks on your property, you could use some gravel or something like that. You could get some of that, and a couple bucketfuls of that would be fine. Okay, and I'll just get down in here and kind of spread these out a little bit more, so not all clumped together. It's kind of hard to always get them in here just right, but even distribution. There can be gaps between, but fairly well covered. Something like that. So then the next thing we want to do is just put in some pure topsoil. So this will be a difference in kind of capacitance in the different materials that we're putting in the whole different layers. So I'm going to use some of this topsoil that I got from just underneath the surface. Also want to get it around the rocks so there isn't a bunch of little air gaps around there. Okay, a little bit more in there. You can use your leg to help shovel, that way you're not using your arms quite so much. Just kind of prop against there and use your strong leg muscles to help move the soil. Use your arm inside your leg and work together for pushing soil in. Okay, I'm going to put in some of the lime. Get in here and try to mix it around as best I can. Should have a fully functional orchard if I had started the first year. So I need to hurry up the process a bit here, and so do what I can, spend a few more hours in the initial planting in order to get the production up and the tree's big and healthy, not have any more false starts. 2/3 of it should be organic matter, quite a large quantity of it. Nice rich soil, that's what the tree will appreciate. Get in here and mix it well. little bit of a challenge, but I'll get it done. Do some more amendments here. Start working in some of the rock phosphate. Putting the leaves on the top and then trying to pull them up. It seems to work better than putting the leaves, putting the leaves down first and then soil on the top. It's easy to bring the leaves up, but it's hard to bring the soil up. So nice blackberry vines in here. You can tell what I was chopping, grinding up with my mower. Go for a jog around the pile here. And in the middle. First, you always wonder where all the dirt's going to go, and then by the time you pack it down and keep adding, you realize you hardly have enough. So, of course, the most important part, well, actually, maybe not, but you also need a tree, don't you? So, these I found at the local Buy Mart here for about $13, so it's not too bad of a deal. I may be able to get some more for $10 at the Scenic Hill nursery over there in Albany, so that's be another option here later on, but they don't sell their trees till about 1st of April, so by then your chances of getting a good tree or even finding what you want are pretty slim if you can't find it there, because everybody else is probably sold out or has just bare scrapings left. So figured, well, it's the beginning of February, so let's just get some there, not much more expensive. And we know we're getting fairly decent stuff. So this is a Honeycrisp. I already have one Honeycrisp out by the front of our property, and it's doing well. I've gotten some apples off it already last year. I think maybe 6 or so last year, and 2 the year before. So we like them. They're fairly decent. They're not terribly flavorful. It's just kind of a honey sweetness flavor and crispy, as indicative of the name. But they're a good storage apple. All right, so let's dig a little hole here and get it out of the bag. Keep untwisting it here. Hopefully it won't snap at the last minute, and then I'll have to get some pliers to actually get it the rest of the way undone. There, got it. Okay. Direct it out of there. It's just a cut, but yeah, I may need to cut it. We packed it in there tight. So I got a knife on me here. All right. Cut her open here. Nice sawdust in here. Okay. Be careful or it'll rip. So I want all this sawdust stuff on the top layer, not buried in here. So I want to get all that off of there. That's just what they stored in. Don't plant it in that stuff. It won't do well. I just like to actually wash this thing off a little bit, but so you don't get much roots with this. You can see what you get. Looks like it's probably been chopped. The taproot's been chopped, and some of the secondary roots have been chopped, but it should do okay. Graft looks nice and healthy. That's where the graft was right there. Probably a bud graft, so what they usually do, because that's the most efficient for a commercial operation, and then they chopped off the original rootstock there. I think this is a, let's see, what type of rootstock is this anyway? I think it's a semi-dwarf. What does it say here? Semi-dwarf, yeah. So I like the semi-dwarfs a little better because they're a little more vigorous. You get more fruit off of them in the end. You get a little bigger tree, which isn't bad. You can always cut it back, cut it to whatever size you want. So and it's nice to have a little vigorous, more vigorous rootstock than a dwarf. Okay, got myself a rock here. So this has helped spread the roots out. So plant him down there. And soil around there. See if we can get the roots all spread out. I don't know if he's going to sit up there or not. I'm going to bury that just a little bit deeper here. Yeah. Kind of gooey. Mine get my hands dirty usually, but I don't want this sticky stuff. Everything you touch then gets dirty. Okay. All right. So keep all the roots going out. Okay. Start putting some back. Start scraping the soil back around. Remember, don't get all this sawdust in there. That would not be a good thing to get all that sawdust in there. That's for the top layer. Now, soil, there's some little feeder roots around coming off about this level here. That's where that sawdust was, so I'm gonna probably get it up that high. Which isn't bad because I'll be mulching this heavily, and so having soil mounded up just a little bit around it isn't going to hurt anything. Everything around it's going to be filled in with wood chips and organic matter of all kinds. Carefully, don't stomp on it, just kind of pack it in. Want there to be air, but not too much. Okay, started out nice and straight, and it'll continue to grow straight. All right, there, how's that? Okay, now we just need to start adding some organic matter, so these nice sawdust can start being added around the surface of the soil. Try not to mix it in too much here, if any. Kick it around here. Looks like it's pretty happy. It's in a nice protected area where there's no deer can get at it, so I don't have to put a fence around it, which is very nice, because having to go get a fence ready after all this work is not something I really care to be doing right now, so glad there's already a fence. I'd like to get a bunch more wood chips hauled out here and try to just cover the whole area around here. All right, so there you have it. I think that's about all I'm going to do for it today. It's getting kind of late in the day, so I need to get in and get some other work done. So there's one tree done, one day. So I started about 9 a.m. and it's about 2:30 now, so with a break for lunch. So it takes a while. A lot of it's just the digging. Get that hole dug. Once that's done, and the rest of it's going to take another hour or so to get all the amendments together and mixed together and everything else put back in the hole. Of course, I've been doing this as I've been doing a video, so that can explain some of the time frame where I'm running around trying to adjust things. So anyway, I think it's a beneficial method. I got two and a half. 1 and 3, I didn't actually dig too deep of a hole. Moderate, maybe a couple feet deep. 1.5 or something, not terribly deep. And it's doing fairly well. The other 2 are doing quite a bit. Well, I don't know if they're quite a bit better, but they're bearing. And I only got 1 plum off the plum tree last year, first one. They're all planted about the same time, so definitely helps with encouraging them to produce heavy yield sooner, and so I know that they're got a good nutrition in the soil and gonna do well in the future. So you can see here the size. This is a cherry tree, Montmorency, and so let's see here. How many years is it now? Must be like 4. It's about 4 years old. So yeah, it's produced since we bought it. Did very well. So it's got a good sized trunk on there, nice and healthy. I've had wood chips around it for most of its life. And then the other tree that I planted the Ellen White method is this one over here. This is a Golden Delicious, and it's about 4 years old or so. So it's produced apples for the last 2 years, I guess. This is going to be its 3rd year producing. So it's doing quite well. Nice thick trunk on there. It's probably almost about 3 to 3.5 inches in diameter. The trunk there, so been pruning it quite a bit here and getting it into shape. So it's doing quite well. And this Liberty, which I just kind of threw in the ground there, it's about a year younger and it's just not doing well. Mulching hasn't helped. Lots of wood chips and lots of mulch around it, but still it only produced like 2 apples yet last year. You can see it's pretty scrawny. It's 1.5 inches in diameter or something like that. And then this one I've had a lot of mulch on. Didn't dig it terribly deep, but so that's the prune over there. That's Brooks prune or plum, however you want to say it. So it's got a good height on it. I chopped off the top. It was terribly high, so I brought it back down to size and trying to train it out to go out, but it's, as my dad said, prunes tend to go up, up, and they don't like to be out so much, so you have to kind of train it out. So I'm going to have to get some bricks or something on some wires or something like that and work on getting the limbs to be more down, going out a little bit more. The Bible talks about how we need to build our lives on a good foundation. And the story of the wise man and the foolish man is a good example of that. And the rock that Jesus said that we need to build our lives on is to hear the words of Christ and to do them. So it isn't just to absorb them, but to actually put them into practice. And that's like building on the rock, on a solid foundation. So that's kind of what we're doing here, is planting our trees on a solid foundation, on good stuff. Things we know that the soil beneath them is well put together, beneficial to the tree, and as we keep it watered over the summer, it should flourish and do well. That's all for today on In Time Country Living. Hope you learned something, and we'll give it a try this year to plant some fruit trees that will continue to produce for you. You can find more information about this planting method online. You can look up the Ellen White method of planting trees. So there's also a video on YouTube called Planting by the Blueprint that has a lot of detailed information on how to do this. And there's diagrams if you just planting by the blueprint or Ellen White method of planting. You look on Google Images, underneath that search, you should be able to find all kinds of diagrams that show the different layers. All right, well, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video. Be sure to give me a thumbs up on this video if you like it. That helps other people to find it. And if you haven't, subscribe to my YouTube channel or like the Facebook page. Great. All right, see you guys later.